We're talking about past, present, and future of cannabis.
That is the history of cannabis in Mendocino County. What's happening now? Well, there's one thing that I kind of like to talk about, which is what we achieved as cannabis community already in North America. And it's kind of strange to say, you know, we're the greatest thing that happened since French toast, I don't know. But we have, listen everybody, we up to now have had the ability to deliver cannabis anywhere and everywhere in the United States. Any small town, any place in the United States, you could get a joint. There's no question about it. And I like to say that we rivaled Coca-Cola in our ability to distribute cannabis all over this country. Now, maybe you weren't getting Mendo's finest, for sure, but you were getting something, right? And this is without any stores, without any advertising, without any marketing, without anybody actually doing no checking accounts, no credit cards, all of that stuff, no publicity. How did it happen? We're able to deliver cannabis all over the whole United States, and it democratized the wealth because it's done by 1,000 individuals, 10,000, 1 million individuals making random decisions to send a pound back to my friend Jimmy, who I went to high school with, right? And that's what happens. And also, this was a complete laissez-faire, free enterprise capitalism that has never ever existed on this planet before, and it is about to die. So that free enterprise cannabis had no rules, no laws. There was no government intervention unless you got too big, and then you got pop. But see, the thing is, Coca-Cola didn't have every police department and sheriff's office in this nation trying to stop them either, right? How do we deliver it? Well, no one really knows.
Okay, well, let me say something.
Yeah.
Because that bong and coffee is obviously working. So what we're looking at now in the present and the future is distribution. The big talk up here these days is about like these big distributing companies they have for alcohol. The same one, Southern Wine and Spirits, Young's Market. You see these giant trucks and you're probably oblivious, but they're all full of alcohol. And that's what delivers it to all of these liquor stores. So they want us to fall into the same pattern too. And this is going to be very, very different. First of all, the distributors take 20 to 30% for just not even selling it, just putting it in their truck and delivering it. You have to make the sale yourself. They just deliver it. And it's a scam. So we're trying to be creative. We're open to all thoughts. If anyone has any, send them our way.
Well, we've been talking to people in the wine business who are in Mendocino, and they're saying, yeah, the worst thing that ever happened to the wine business was the fact of distribution. And the state wants it because they think that they need a narrow funnel to put everything through so they can keep track of how much and because of what, so they can tax it. But normally taxing is at the retail end when it's finally sold, right? So with cannabis, what the state law, I guess we should really talk about that. The state law, which was passed in October, and now they're amending it too. They want to put a tax on every pound, every ounce of cannabis on the farmer, a $9.25 tax on every ounce of cannabis that the farmer has to pay in order to grow it, and a $2.75 tax on leaf. Now, taxes are tricky to pass, so they probably won't get that passed, but that's what they're thinking about it, right? So then, on the other hand, at the far end, they're also thinking this new initiative, the so-called ALMA, the Sean Parker initiative. It's on the ballot, right? You're going to have to choose and decide in November whether you want to have this or not. And this one has a whole lot of rules which are very similar to what the state passed. We call it MRSA, Medical Marijuana Regulatory Something Act, right?
Safety Act.
Safety. And that's the MRSA. That's what's passed. Now, the ALMA state initiative is, in fact, patterned very much after the past law that already has like 3 levels of growing, testing, manufacture, and distribution, and transfer, and so on and so forth. I can rattle it off. I got it memorized, right? But you have to pay attention to this stuff if you're a grower, if you're a distributor, if you're a dispensary, anything, and if you're a consumer, because in the end, they want to put an extra 15% tax on the consumer of cannabis at the retail end, in addition to your normal 7.5% sales tax, plus whatever county, city tax you get. So you're going to be paying on your retail end for your little ounce of cannabis a good 25% tax. But that's not including the price that the farmer has to charge in order to be able to pay his taxes or his income tax. Or the other thing is the farmer then has to pay permits, which is, it's fair and square. We just have to pay $2,500 this year for our permit for discharging water, which we actually don't do. We're level land, we don't put any pesticides and so on, but for a waiver on them to shut us down, we pay $2,500. So all these things are hitting every farmer up here, and all of that likewise will raise the price of cannabis.
Yeah, so it's really a new, as far as speaking for the farmers up here, the cannabis farmers, they're lovingly growing your cannabis for you. It's a whole new world. Swami and I are very, very fortunate. We're kind of ahead of the game by some default that happened. But for most farmers up here, they don't want to come out of the shadows. They don't want to be legal. It's been a really nice ride. And all of a sudden they have to learn about paying taxes and employee benefits and so many things. I mean, the paperwork is astounding. And it's really intimidating to a lot of farmers. So the big question is, will the black market survive? Yeah. Well, we can still do the black. No, but it won't. It won't.
Well, it will for a while, that's for sure.
It will for a while. But the price... Yeah, well, they grow shitty weed in Colorado, so, what do they know? So, but I think in California, it's probably going to be like what happened with alcohol, I would imagine. Which there'll be a few people that still do their own little things, of course, and get away with it. But the prices are going to be, it's just going to be so much easier. People are lazy. If you can go to a store and buy it, you're going to do that. And that's probably what's going to happen. So people are wondering, who's going to be able to fall in? Who's going to be able to, meet all these requirements that the sheriff is requiring of us. There's so much stuff we have to prove.
That's just the county, then there's the state likewise, and so on.
But
so
we're
what
still
happens?
Going to do it, don't worry.
Everyone then grows thousands and thousands of plants eventually down in Fresno, Central Valley, and so on. What's going to happen to the price of cannabis? Well, the theory, obviously, in the commodity market economics is the price is going to go way, way down. But if at the same time they're pumping up permit fees and license fees and taxes on top of that, and then you have to have all these inspections, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, where is the price going to go? Who's going to be left to grow?
Well, what happens then is corporations, I hate to say. But that's going to be the Central Valley, and that's going to be your not such good cannabis. Like Gallo, like good wines. It's been...
That's going to be the oils and your vape pens and stuff like that.
Of course, there will be people growing acres and acres and vast amounts of it. Yeah. But we're happy to tell you there's still room at the top for people like us. In Mendocino County, they're going to continue to grow only the best. Sun-grown organic cannabis.
You might have gathered from what we've just been talking about is Nikki and I are very much involved in the political aspect of defining who and how are we allowed to grow cannabis in Mendocino County, and the future of, we could actually have an election in November that says, no, we don't want to have recreational cannabis in the state of California. It's not a slam dunk that measure is going to pass, or it's the right one if it does. So what is an informed idea about that to begin with? Now, what is the future? The future of cannabis is really a huge medical future. There's no question about that. Curing cancer, curing skin disease. Every one of us knows how magic cannabis is in various performance as tincture, as spray, as salves, as edibles, etc., etc. We all know. And of course, Mendocino and Humboldt and the Emerald Triangle have been in the very forefront of developing all those new medicines, which are actually ancient medicines. So the economics of the future is if you have a niche, if you have a very special product, you will survive if you really double time hustle. And the next thing is, we see a niche like the Cuban cigar, right, or the $40, $50 bottle of wine for the finest cannabis, which is grown with love and care in natural conditions using methods that are biologically regenerative and ways that make the farm and the land better and are using water sensibly. That's what we promote. Ethical, responsible farming that is regenerative. And we want to promote that not just for cannabis, but for all agriculture.
But it is happening, and people are very interested in getting the old strains because they did get bred out. So people were basically taking all of these high CBD strains and just mixing them and breeding them until they got to high THC. To just get high. In fact, we used to grow cannabis that we thought this pound's no good. This doesn't even get me high. And then we get it tested, and the test tells us it's CBD. And we had some of the first plants in the country that were actually, for a while, we had the highest CBD plants in the country because basically no one else was getting it tested. And then you realize, oh my God, all that weed we were probably throwing out or making cookies because it was no good to eat or drink, smoke was actually incredibly medical good stuff, the CBD. So we're learning.
So we'll talk a little more. You're asking a question about strains and about ways of agriculture. There is a sort of a grassroots movement, if you will, in Mendo and Humboldt. A lot of people are learning about a form of gardening called biomicrobial or regenerative agriculture, biological gardening, things of this nature. And the aim is to get back to what farms used to be, which is to say they grew what they grew by what they had available on their immediate farm and area. And we're working towards to try and bring less and less, fewer and fewer things from outside of our ranch to make our plants fertile. Not just our cannabis, but all of our gardens. We're using mushrooms, we're using efficient microorganisms, which actually we grow ourselves, which are called indigenous microorganisms that we create here in our own property, and so on. So we're trying to make as much of our land be alive. Now, the soil that we have at Turtle Creek for growing cannabis is soil that originated here. None of the soil has been brought in for our growing our cannabis, but we've amended it by many things, and now we're using simply compost teas and bokashi and things like this. And along with that, there are many growers up here who are working back to original strains. There are also, there's an old TV show called Strain Hunters or something like that online you can look at. And these are a bunch of guys from Amsterdam who have some of the largest seed companies in the world, and they have videos of them going to Colombia, Jamaica, India, all these different places, and going way up to the remotest village, making contact with the farmer and say, can we buy some of your seeds to take with us to keep what they call landrace strains vital. And so there's a lot of people very concerned about that for sure.
But up here in Mendocino, we have some of the longest time sun-grown growers in America. Say they've been doing a lot longer in other countries, and these people have been working on the strains. There are certain people up here that are better than Emer's sommelier equal, and they can tell you exactly this strain was bred in 1970 and then crossed with this one and crossed with that one, and know exactly. So in the future, I do see that it'll get to this general quality and then this high grade, where it's really you'll know if you want to find those old strains, you want to find the good thing, it'll be available, of course, because there's going to be people that are connoisseurs. And that's what we're trying to promote, is the connoisseurship. Yeah.
Right now at the bottom of the hill at Area 101, Tim Blake, founder of the Emerald Cup, is having a cannabis market, a farmer's market, and it's full of people who grow cannabis and sell cannabis products and so on. And it's truly an astounding event. There's probably like 60 booths down there, and who knows how many hundreds and hundreds of people. And so that's once again Tim Blake at the forefront of the whole thing. And so,
but there's a lot of conscious farmers up here.
Absolutely,
and we're really, really proud of that, and we're trying to promote that about Mendocino.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons, oddly enough, that you find more high quality conscious farmers up here is because of our legal restrictions we've had in our county. And I'll say it on the air, our ridiculous board of supervisors has continuously limited how many plants we can grow in this county. And because of that, we've had to grow better quality. Our neighbor county, Humboldt, can grow 1,000 plants on one parcel, up to that. And we can do, right now, finally 99, last year it was 25. Yeah. But what comes of that is that we grow quality. We've learned it. We've really worked at it. You got to get your bang for your buck, So I really think it's actually going to work to the benefit in the years to come for Mendocino.
So the question for us becomes, how much do we restrict growth in Mendocino County, if in fact the growers themselves have the choice in the matter? But we were driving down Bell Springs, just about to get onto Highway 101 about a week ago, and I see this whole cluster of cars, all these men in white shirts and Dockers, and all of a sudden I hear all this, well, the properties we'll be looking at today are over in this area. And all of a sudden up in Humboldt too, there's seemingly a real estate rush of people to buy property so that they can establish the fact that they're residents before it becomes totally legally regulated in 2018. Because that's what the law read. You got to be a resident. And the counties are saying you got to be a resident grower. So we, as now the growers who are, we consider ourselves part of the elite of growers. And there's a whole group called the Emerald Growers, Mendo Grown, and then there's the the California Growers Association and the Small Farmers Association. These are all groups that are groups of farmers that are banding together. And then there's an overarching group that's called the Mendocino Cannabis Policy Council, with representatives also from people who are just tincture makers or they're dispensary owners, not just the farmers.
But the reason we need these little co-ops up here is, again, because we have a limit on how many plants we can buy. So here it gets into grow. This gets into this whole, again, the distributorship thing. That you have to have a certain amount to make it worth it for the distributor to even sign you up. So people are forming co-ops that involve, 10, 15, even more in the future, farmers, so that there together becomes enough product to sell. Because we have to start thinking like businessmen these days.
Well, but this isn't anything new. Farmer co-ops go way back, and the Grange is part of that too. So the Grange has been revival. Some of the people up here are using the Grange hall for meetings, organizing people against fracking, for example, and against GMOs, and also for promoting the cannabis as a small farm. We've also working in the state legislature to get a cottage industry designation for small farmers. So the idea is, we want to allow the people who are growing now and who are making medicine now and who are dispensing medicine now in Mendocino County with ethic, with responsibility, with protection of the environment. We want all of those people to survive, right? And so we want to do that by preventing huge corporations from coming in. On the other hand, in sheer economic terms, there's no way that most of those people, not most of them, maybe 20, 40% of the people now living from cannabis will probably survive. And that's probably something people don't want to hear on the air. But in that place, will the black market still continue? Yes, definitely for a certain time, because we know a lot of people way back up in the mountains who say, "Are you kidding me? I'm doing this 30 years, I ain't going to change," right? And I still got my, they all sell out of state. So one of the things about people coming into compliance, now here's another thing. For so long, since 2015, not 2015, 215 was passed, everyone in
that
town...
bong is still kicking in, can you tell? I mean...
It's a combination of coffee. Now here is to coffee and cannabis. I want to say always to this combination, hail, hail.
You never even lit the joint.
I know.
That's how stoned you are.
That's how stoned. See, that's the measurement. See, I have a big fatty right here in the, right? So the bong really works. Yeah, so
I didn't drink the bong. So a lot of people are just jumping on this bandwagon, and they have no clue how hard it is to grow good cannabis. A lot of them don't care. A lot of them are just going to grow stuff that's going to make it into oils. So if you're going to make it into oils, you don't even have to trim that plant. You just cut down the whole thing, chop it up, send it off, and it becomes oil. And people can do that. So there is ways, there are ways that people can make money growing still for those kinds of situations. But if they want to be top shelf growers, they better get a few years under their belt, because that's not so easy. And you have to be in the right situation, the right terroir. We're talking about appellations up here now a lot, and we've actually established a whole map of appellations for Mendocino County. And we feel that, appellations like in wine. So if you have champagne, it comes from the Champagne region of France. And you can't call it champagne if it doesn't. So we're getting that way. And then Napa is the same way. So you have all the different valleys. And Napa has like 13 different appellations in it. So I think we've established 9 for Mendocino County that are just different growing situations. The sun hits it differently, the soil's different. But basically what we do all share is the culture. And that's also something of the appellation. And some of these newer growers that you're talking about, I'm not so sure they share the culture. They don't know who we are. They're just coming in to make money. And that's a real different kind of headset. There's a lot of good old boys out there still. Yeah. And they're still around, and they really want their land for their hunting and their trees, their logging businesses. They really don't understand us.
Kitty, what?
In 2018, regulations in the United States, once it becomes a Schedule 2 on the FDA, we are going to produce, like California produces the food for the country, we will produce
That's right.
the pot for the country.
That's right.
We will always have our standing. Like you said, Colorado can't grow good pot. They don't want to grow pot in Iowa. They're going to grow it fast.
Hemp. They're going to grow hemp in Iowa, and that's good.
But California will always be the breadbasket and the pot producer.
Amen. Amen. And there will be more
Hallelujah.
people buying it. A lot of people
Witness.
say that right now, probably, I'm going to throw it out there. Mendocino County, probably 75% of the cannabis grounds get shipped out of state. So people say, well, who's going to buy it all? Well, more people are going to be buying it because once it gets legal and people, there's a lot of people that are our ages, right, that maybe got high in high school 40 years ago or something, and they're going to start realizing now, oh boy, this helps me make me feel better. I'm willing to do it again. It's going to come back. And so I have no doubt that the amount of people that are going to be wanting cannabis is going to go way up.
Yeah.
And California is going to have a lot of people to supply.
So I want to say one thing. That brings me to the so-called war on drugs, which has been going on for many, many years. And we don't want to ever forget that I believe in 2014, 600,000 people were arrested for some form of cannabis possession in the United States. And that's the largest category for which you're arrested any other category in the whole country. And probably more than were arrested in the rest of the world for all I know.
So
Not
even if you don't, but even if you don't agree with Alma or the any of these things to legalize cannabis, it doesn't matter. People should not go to jail, and that's the A1 number thing. So it should not. This is a sacred herb. So just vote for legalization, whether you believe in it or not, just for those people. This is Smokin with Swami saying goodbye, but he's still talking because he's so stoned on the bong we can't shut him up. Later.